Welcome back, gamers. It is your favorite host, Siobhan Elise, and I'm here with Miss Tollisha Joseph. Whoop, whoop. She is the CEO of The Official Glue and a mighty incredible network strategist, might I add. And I'm so excited to have her. I wish you guys could have heard the conversation we just had, a full episode before the cameras rolling, but
It's always an episode before the episode.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
what. That's just what happens.
So we're gonna deep dive into a lot today. But before we get into that, of course, I have to thank my gamers for being a part of our community. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is an entrepreneurial mindset podcast where we go beyond the practical steps of entrepreneurship and into the nitty gritty of what it's really like to live this life. Okay.
Ooh.
So, Miss Talisha.
I'm giddy because I don't even know. Like, I just want to share a little bit before we even jump into it. I'm giddy because I don't even know where we're going with this because the conversation before the conversation might get y'all a little twisted. So I'm just saying, like, we might get a couple people tight
Yeah.
on this call, but it's all in love and evolution. Just let's
Amen.
set that precedent before we get started.
We're definitely getting ready to have a big girl conversation today because business is not for the faint of heart. And I think we live in a culture today that sends mixed signals on a variety of different levels. And being that we are both in the game, we just want to shed some light on a few things.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. Well, actually, how about we just we just put a flashlight on it. Yeah, let's just put it like we don't want to do that softbox light. We just want to get like that hard spotlight. We're gonna spotlight some issues on this table today.
So actually, we can just really continue the conversation that we're having because you're a network strategist. So that's what you do. You build relationships. You make sure that they're worth the investment. And we were having a conversation on: do you think social media is helping us and empowering us to build relationships, or is it deteriorating our ability to build meaningful connections?
Okay, so I'm gonna break this down into like simple situations, right? I usually, when I get down into these conversations, I like to simplify things. So when it comes down to social media, I feel like social media is a direct replica of what's happening in our real life scenarios, right? So in real life, you have communities, you have neighborhoods, you have counties, you have cities, right? We have all of these things that we're navigating all day long. We're going from one county to I came from one county to another today, right? So we're always traveling and going from one county to another. And I kind of explained social media like that, and there's a multiple different platforms, multiple counties that you can visit, right? So it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Snapchat, it's TikTok, it's YouTube, it's LinkedIn, and every county has its own vibe. We were talking about that. Like, I don't want to be in Miami, right? I'm like, only come on an invite. And we have people who are like, I don't want to be on Instagram. Only come on an invite, right? So if you really start to think about social media like you think about how you are interacting in your actual life, it will become more pleasurable and you will learn how to navigate your county or navigate your city or navigate your neighborhood. And how broad or how wide you want to go is literally up to you, right?
Yeah.
You can create a small box in the earth on Facebook in a group and just be there. Stay in my neighborhood. Let my kids go to the school right around the block because I don't want them traveling 5 miles. Like, you could do that. You can then say, you know what? I want to go and explore my city.
Yeah.
So I want to use Facebook groups. I want to use the FaceTime feature. I want to use the Messenger. I want to use a couple different components. I want to explore the county. I want to go 5 miles out. I want to have 5 different platforms that I'm using and exploring how they all work and seeing, are there any highways? Are there any intersections on these platforms? Can I just roam? Right. And, we have to really get into the mindset that social media is not leaving. We keep saying these crazy things like, what if Instagram dies? What if Facebook dies? I feel like I'm revisiting Y2K when we thought that because we had dial-up internet that the whole world was going to blow up. And we're like in 5G now. So we're not going back. We're only progressing and moving forward. And we have to get used to evolution. We have to get used to the evolving process of technology. And challenge is hard. Challenge is hard for people. Change is difficult. And that's the space that I think people are struggling in. We're not really struggling with the tools. We're not really struggling with the idea of tech. We're struggling with the idea of change. And so we have to get down to the root of the problem. Are you upset about Instagram, or are you upset because it's causing you to change?
That was an incredibly insightful answer. And I don't think I've ever looked at it that way. But that is very well put. I look at social media like, first of all, I love it. It is an incredible tool. So I agree with you 1,000%. Now, like anything, there is a great deal of uncertainty that comes with change. And I think that's when we get to the nitty-gritty, that is what people are afraid of. Because when we build these cities and you go on these different platforms, as you put yourself out there, it starts to take on a life of its own. People talk about the algorithm a lot and how to beat it and all that. The algorithm has a life of its own. Like you say, it is a mirror of our own consciousness, what we're putting our energy and our attention into. And I don't think we were prepared to see that. I don't think that people were really prepared to see the reality of what interests us and see it play out on our feeds. So I think the conflict that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs had, and I've even had, is do I show up in a way that is most appealing? Or is this a safe space for me to come out as I am?
It ain't safe. It ain't safe. Ooh,
You're right. It's not safe. We've seen so many instances where it's not safe. The whole cancel culture lets you know they'll even take something out of your private life, and if it gets went to the internet, it's over for you. So,
but stepping outside your house ain't safe. So we're really let's put it out there, because I think we're giving social media too much credit. At the end of the day, we are putting so much pressure on social media. It is not safe to walk outside your door.
Yeah.
Anything can happen when you're not in the protection of the walls of your home. Anything. So, and again, putting yourself outside is putting yourself in danger.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
When you let your kids go to school, you are welcoming the idea that things might happen. And you have to really get in touch with the reality of, outside of this area that I've created, my safety zone, my comfort, is dangerous, because now you're interacting with other people and their comforts and their likes and their dislikes and all of the variables of going outside and engaging with others, which is what's happening on social. The only difference that is apparent on social media and real life is that your response time can be delayed on social media.
Right.
Where if you were in a space and you had a face-to-face engagement with someone and they said something that you didn't like, you would have to think of how you're going to respond on the spot.
Yeah.
Where on social media, we are graceful there. We have a lot more grace than what we think we do. People are like, oh, social media don't got no grace. Oh, yes, it is graceful. Why? Because it allows you space to think about what you're doing. Now, is everybody conscious of the space that social media is gracing them with? Probably not, because we want to be reactors. We don't want to be responders. We want to be reactor. We want to have a reaction to everything. And then what is going on is we then get into our actual life and play it like we are playing on social media. So we're flipping our reality. Our reality is really distorted. We're flipping it, and we're gamifying our real life.
And that's the point I was going to get to, because although like you and I grew up in a time before social media where we had to be really outside for real, and it was a completely different experience, right? We have children, you know, you have cousins, nieces, whatever, who are growing up, and this is their source of human interaction, and it is shaping their minds and how people are showing up in the real world. And in that way, I think that is detrimental. And why I think these type of conversations are important is to say, regardless of all that, there's a saying, I don't stay safe, I stay dangerous. You know, and I'm the type of girl where I'm very true to my own humanity, where I don't care what is acceptable or what's not. Like, I have to speak my mind. I have to dress how I want to dress. It may not be popular. It may not look cool or be at the standard, but it's just this level of rebellion that I have, and I feel like it may not be right or wrong, but it's healthy in this time. And I guess my goal in having these conversations is to help other people feel more comfortable in their humanity, despite all of the IT, AI stuff that's going on. And being that you are in network strategy, what are your thoughts on my take on that?
I think that like I said, I think that we're gamifying our life. And you used a word that I'm like, well, yeah, I'm questioning it. I'm like, is it rebellious? Is it? Is it rebellious? Because being you is not being a rebel, right? It's really, unfortunately, what's happened is, I love that you said we kind of grew up in a different time, and I feel like I'm gonna say, I don't know how old you are. I'm just gonna say it. Okay. I grew up in a great time because I got to taste both sides of the spectrum. So I am the middleman in this very weird transition where we have the boomers who kind of learn how to type on typewriters and and learn how to do math on a real calculator, and like did these things, know how to write handwritten letters. They understand, the power of language and script, and all that stuff. And then we have the new age where everything is like, speak to me, right? Where all things are like, all you gotta do is talk to it. Even your refrigerator, you can talk to the refrigerator and now it just does things, right? But I've grown up in the middle where I understand that I could talk to some things, but I also understand that some things need my personal touch. And where I feel like, where now when you put your personal touch on things, you're considered a rebel, is because we've just kind of come to this space of like, if you're not in the speak to it, and you're not in this style, you're not, if all the things that you're not kind of overweighs your individual. So it's like, well, you're not wearing your hair this way. Your body's not like this. You're not speaking like this. You're not, all the things that you're not are kind of dumbing down your individual identity. And when we get to branding, we hear all the time people saying, find your unique value proposition, get your brand distinction. And it's like, well, that quality is going to be hard to find if you're over consumed with all of the things that you're not. Exactly. So there's a level of overconsumption when it comes to social media. It's overstimulating. And is it social media that's overstimulating, or are you just allowing yourself to be overstimulated by social media? And when I say that, it's not scrolling for 5 hours. That's not what I mean. I mean cleaning your container. The same way I said, when we are in big cities, they designate areas for cleaning up the city. There's city sweepers that come through. There's trash that comes through twice a week to make sure that our city does not get cluttered with garbage. Right. Are we being the garbage man in our virtual cities?
Can you tell us practically what does it look like cleaning up your virtual city?
Removing any of the trash, right? I mean, we are in this follow culture where we just follow people because they followed us, and now we just want to be liked. So we just want to be courteous, and we want to be nice, and we want to do that
Yeah, it's
because
like-
they did it, right? It's like a follow for follow. And but have you even went and tasted what they're putting out, and is it a vibe,
Right.
right? And if not, then now you're cluttering your city with their trash.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying when it comes to building your own brand, you have to be very conscious of your influence, right? Or what you're being influenced by.
What you're being influenced by.
Right.
Yeah.
So not letting the culture of follow for follow, just using that as an example, overpower what you actually prefer.
Yes.
Okay.
Your preferences. And, again, we talked about this like-minded individuals, but, we have to be mindful of preference because we can't just prefer to be around people that are just like us.
Yeah.
We have to have some preferred tolerance for people who are opposite of us. We need opposition in our lives. And so when we are creating our city, it has to be a multifaceted city. It has to be a very diverse city, a very inclusive city, right? But that does not mean welcoming people who are just gonna bring their garbage. Like you go around your city, and how many signs is like no littering?
Right. Right.
Because they want to make sure that you respect their city.
Absolutely.
Enough that they pay for signs to put it up to say, I don't want your trash here.
It is, and it has to be that way because it's so complex. It's so many people. It's so many different everything. So I do see where you're coming from, where that level of clarity is needed in order for it all to cohesively
Exist.
Yes. Yes, I definitely understand that. So I would say, because this is a entrepreneurial mindset podcast, and I'm also like very vocal about my faith. And I know that everyone may have different religions, but as for me, this journey was about incorporating my belief and my relationship with Jesus Christ into how I navigate business, right? And in that journey, control has been, and he's telling me I need to bring that word up. Control has been a really big challenge for me because all of this whole conversation is about, how much we can control, right? How much can we control our narrative? And then when we bring God into it, he has a whole nother thing, right?
This is complex. This is real complex, and I'm going to try to simplify it.
Yeah.
Because I believe that when you are when you are in the beginning of any journey, like walking from one side of the street to the other side, it can be difficult.
Yeah.
And, you're standing on one side of the street, you're seeing the oncoming traffic, you're contemplating timing. When can I go? How far distance can I walk without getting hit? Like, there's so many things that are going in your mind just to get you across the street. So that's a simple complex. We're trying to cross spiritual bounds. Imagine how many things are in your mind when you're trying to take that walk.
Right.
That's a long walk, right? It is a long walk to get to the other side of that journey. And I think that is where grace has to be the guidance in that walk.
Yeah.
Like grace goes first, and then you follow grace. And there will be a time in that journey where you and grace are walking together. And we're holding hands and we're crossing the street. And grace is just holding on to me to make sure that I am in pace.
Yeah.
Right? And then there is a time in that journey where grace is way ahead of you on the other side of the street, watching you cross.
Yeah.
And and you are crossing gracefully, right? So I think that we just have to respect the journey.
Yeah.
That's the first part of that. Like, you have to respect your journey and where you are in that journey, and be honest about that journey of where you are. I do believe that even in business, and I think this is where it is hard for most people when it comes to business, is because they haven't found the foundation.
Yeah.
Whatever that foundation is, I am not here to convert souls.
Mhm.
I'm not, I'm not here to like uh change your domination. Like, that is not my job, nor is it my business. But I do believe that in a business, because business is the epitome of a faith walk. Like,
Yeah.
if you are in the business of business, you have literally said to yourself, I am the craziest person on the face of the earth.
Yep.
And I am walking on a very tight line of faith.
Yeah.
And literally, as you are walking on that tight rope, that rope is disintegrating
Yeah.
on the journey across. So it literally is a walking on water
Absolutely.
experience in business.
That was great.
In a literal form, you are literally walking on something that cannot hold or sustain you, and you never know when the water is just gonna stop creating enough force to keep you afloat.
Amen. Amen.
That is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
So I don't know how people go into business without a foundation of faith of any kind.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't relate.
I don't know if people realize how much they need it. Because most of us walk into it blind.
Sure.
When I first started my business, I didn't realize that I was gonna need a God or something. And a pivotal point for me in business was really spiritually surrendering, because as entrepreneurs, it is our job to control as much as possible, to consider as much as possible. However, because we're on this incredibly extensive journey and we don't really know exactly where it leads, it's going to continuously require us to stretch our capacity on the inside, and it will then reflect in our business. And there have been times where, had I tried to keep it within my control and done it the way that I saw it fit, I wouldn't have made it. I would have failed. I would have quit. So just really knowing when it's okay to not know, but still keep walking, which is, reiterating the faith. But this, for me, surrender is faith in action, where it's like, even if I don't know what I'm getting myself into or how this is going to turn out, I'm going to still give it 110% and just allow God to come in and fill in the meantime.
Well, and for me, I think that we wait until the last second to have those prayers. My journey, completely different. Like,
Tell us.
completely different. Business found me, I didn't find it. Like, that's the truth. It found me.
Yeah.
And God was preparing me for this before I even knew that this was going to be what I was doing. He was giving me all the signs. The writing was on the wall. Things were just happening. And for a while, I was in a space of like disbelief. Like, not so much disbelief, like I don't believe it's true, but disbelief, like, this can't be for me. So when I've done a lot of things in my life journey. And I think that all of those things have played a pivotal role in what you see today.
Right.
But the moment where I decided that I was going to try something different, not even like making a declaration to be like, I'm going into business by myself, right, and I'm going to jump in the water. Like, it wasn't that. It was just, I was just fed up with how things were transpiring for me. But the first call of action I got was not to jump in the water. The first call of action I got was to change your temperament. So my instruction in that time was to stay where I was and be in the face of frustration so that I can learn how to manage it.
Woo! That's a good
So
one.
I stayed in a place that frustrated me every single day until it did not no longer. because God knew that I would need that type of temperament to do this work.
Yes.
I needed that.
Yeah.
And then from there, the next instruction was use your voice. And so in the midst of COVID, I started a live stream. Like nobody was live streaming. Like I can't even tell you how many. I was on a call for like 5 hours trying to figure out how to get two faces on Facebook. Like it was crazy. But I did it. And I did it scared.
Yeah.
And not scared the way that we kind of go out and be like, do it scared.
Yeah,
like,
right? No, like really.
I'm just saying, like, it wasn't without a plan. I was just nervous activating my plan.
Right.
Which is a different scared. Like, we got to be really clear on what we're telling people in this journey. Like, you should never do anything without having real intentional thoughts about what it would be like to do it.
Yeah.
And that does not mean the activation of it is going to be fearless. Right. It just means that I am activating a plan and I'm scared about the activation process. Yeah. So I went on to this live stream, and when I got off of these calls, you can wring my shirt out.
Yeah.
And drink.
Wow.
Because I was just drippy.
Yeah.
From nerves. But God knew that I needed that test of temperament, because I wouldn't be here comfortable and sweet if I didn't go through that temper test.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that again, you got to respect your evolution. You got to respect your journey. And I feel like we see so many people like snap their fingers and they're there, but no one was watching. No one knew what happened when the camera went off with me. Right. No one knew when I was in that work environment and really trying to manage my level of frustration. No one saw that part of the process. No one saw when I was standing on the other side of the street, scared that I might get hit with all of these oppositions. And not oppositions like, no. Like, nobody was telling me no.
Right.
Everybody was telling me, yes, you can. But I didn't feel like I could. Right. I was my own op.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad you say that, because we are our biggest opposition. Yeah, and not seeing that groundwork is what's misleading so many people. So thank you for the gift of your vulnerability, because in that moment that no one would have ever known if you didn't share, it gave you something that was so essential to, like you say, what you do now. And that is the case when it comes to our journey. Like those not so glamorous parts are the most important parts. I always say, like, when you don't feel like doing something, or the more difficult something feels for you, that is the most important. So I want you to feel glamorous when you are doing those tedious tasks that you hate. I want you to feel glamorous when you're making those cold calls that you just can't stand to hear another no from. I want you to glamorize the nitty gritty of entrepreneurship, because that is what's going to build that resilience and really build your character so that you can get to that level of success that you desire.
You know what builds resilience and character? And, gosh, there's so many things that I just dislike about what we say. Yeah. There's so many things. Like, there's so many things that I think this is why I'm in the business. I like, you talk about disruption. Ooh, Jesus. Oh, yeah. Right? And tell me what, you want to be a disruptor, you have to be able to withstand the fires of your disruption. Yeah. Don't ask for things that you can't handle, right? So what I'm going to say might be a little bit disruptive, but I don't like this area of like expectation of no. Why are we doing that? And, you don't need to expect a no. I think at the end of the day, you are expecting the no, so you receive exactly what you expected. And I'm in the business of getting people set up to expect to hear yes. But we can't expect to hear yes if we go into everything that we do without setting an expectation.
Absolutely.
Like, this is prayer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People think prayer looks like, oh, Heavenly Father. I've come. Yeah. No, prayer is when I go into that room, I'm expecting something great to happen.
Absolutely.
When I go into that room, I'm expecting people to welcome me with a warm welcome. When I step into this space, I'm expecting people to value what I'm bringing to the table.
Yeah.
You know, expectations are prayers, and we should have them every day,
Mm-hmm.
all day, not
Yeah.
in the morning, not
Mhm.
in the evening, but all throughout.
Yeah.
It's a thorough experience
Yeah. No.
in prayer. And so in business, what I'm finding a lot is that business people are trained to not have expectations
Mm.
because they want to set the bar so low
Mhm.
to remove any disappointment.
Mhm.
And so, like, if I don't have any expectations, then I can't be disappointed.
Right.
Well, you're disappointed because you don't have any expectations.
Right.
Right? You're not setting any standards.
Right.
And again, the other side is the glamorizing. You don't need to glamorize things. You just need to have a plan for the things that you're going to do.
Mhm.
Because when I was sweating on camera, although I was sweating on camera, no, if you go back to that first episode,
Mhm.
nobody would have the idea that she never spoke
Mhm.
before. No one would have the idea that she's over here sweating like a pig.
Yeah.
No, because I had a plan and I executed that plan as best as I could at that time.
Yeah.
Obviously, through practice, I've grown, I've perfected my craft. I'm no longer as sweaty, but I started out at a good position because I gave myself an expectation to do so.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we say things like start messy, it's like giving yourself an allowance not to try.
Mm. Well, it could be taken that way. It could be. Or it could be just the reality of where people are at. And I think that everything you said is 100% valid and best case scenario. And I would love for every person watching this show to be like, yeah, I'm there with you, Tollisha. I agree. But that's not the reality. It's not. And I believe that it is for people who are in position like you to help people get to that place.
Absolutely.
You know? And when it comes to me saying glamorizing, absolutely we do. Because glamorizing things is what is motivating people to take these risks in the first place. So if you're going to glamorize your big win, glamorize the hard work that it takes to get it. If that's what it's going to take to move someone, which it seems to be so, then yeah, absolutely.
So I will say this. I agree on this fact that one thing that we don't talk about very often, we talk about all the glamour, but we don't talk about the support, right? So glamour is real, but support needs to be in that conversation of glamour. You don't, if you're going to get ready to go somewhere, you got a glam team. There's a whole team to get you ready to go. So in this business journey, where is your glam team? Right? So this is what I mean about we don't need to be out here looking a hot mess every day, right? Because there are people here, and I'm sharing from my own experience. When I was on 441 in Sample Road, heading to this job that I was like, having a whole panic attack in my car at the road of decision making, literally at the red light of intersection of Tollisha Joseph's life.
Wow.
I made the decision to double back. I made a U-turn. I stopped. I was at that red light and I was like, I'm not going in. I quit my job that day. I'm not going in. I am turning back. Who did I turn back to? I didn't go home. I did not go home. I met a woman 2 weeks before I made that decision. Mind you, she was somebody I knew already, but God, right? We're talking about the spirit and how foundation and all these things. But God, me and my friend were going on a little day date to Cooper's Hawk to go drink some wine and suck away our sorrows. And out comes a woman that I worked for when I was 19. And I thought, I'm like, Tiana, what are you doing here? Because nobody I see on social media lives in Florida, by the way. They don't. I'm like, what are you doing here? And she tells me, and she's like, oh, I'm in marketing. I own my own business. My office is right down the street. Mind you, her office is literally a block away from my house.
Oh, wow.
So I met her that day, and I told her this. I'm like, when we were working together, you fired me, and I couldn't stand you for the rest of my life. Like, that's it. Like, that heifer.
Yeah, get it out the way.
Can't stand you for the rest of my life. If I see you, we are just not in a vibe.
Wow.
But, maturity.
Yeah.
I did intersect with her again. And in this intersection, I didn't think about that at that moment. But when I was sitting at the intersection, I thought about that. I'm like, you and me were in the same position. You were my boss by a step, literally, like one step above.
Yeah.
But we were in the same age group. We're like the same thing. So how the hell did you get to an office down the street from my job and I'm at a red light contemplating if I want to even go forward? How is there such a divide in what's going on? This is where questioning helps you. Start doing some interceptive work. Start asking yourself questions. How is that possible? Because that how led me to help.
Yeah.
I turned around and I went to her office. Now, did she give me her office address? She did not. I Googled it.
Okay.
Did I have an appointment? No. I just showed up.
I know that's right.
I went to the office. I got to the receptionist desk. I said, I'm looking for Tiana McDonald. She said, does she know you're coming? I said, no. She's like, well, she's in a meeting. I said, I'll wait. And I waited. I waited 30 minutes in the lobby for my help because I knew that I was not going to be able to move forward in my business without my glam team.
Yeah.
So we're out here trying to do things on our own and don't recognize like trying to do it on your own. You out here looking messy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You messy.
Yeah.
Like, why not just get the help? Like, there's so many people doing so many amazing things.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it by yourself. And this whole idea that we are like, do it alone, fail forward, fail first. You got to fail before you don't have to fail.
Right.
I did not start my journey in a failure position. I start my journey off in advancement. She gave me everything I needed to advance myself to a next level. So my journey, where it might have took someone 5 years to get where I am, I did it in 2.5.
Yeah.
She accelerated my process.
Absolutely.
Help is an accelerator. So ask for help. It accelerates your process. Now, will you sometimes have to pay for that? Yes. Bear the expense. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. Bear the expense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I will say 1,000% I agree. 5 years ago, I would have been like, what? I got it. Living the experience, we do need a team. We do need support. Like, I can't do this by myself, So, again, this is a mindset podcast for those who are getting there. In layman's terms, what is a entrepreneurial startup kit that you think every startup entrepreneur should run out the gate with?
I think the entrepreneurial startup kit looks like it's networking, marketing, and branding.
Okay.
At the simplest levels, like we complicate these things and we think that, oh my God, I can never network, I can never brand, I can never market. But you are branding yourself. You have a name. You're branded, right? Tell people your name. That's branding. When you go outside and you talk to people, start talking to people in your future ideas. That's marketing. That's marketing your next promotion. Right? Yep. When you are networking, network for advancement. Look for people who you want to look like in your future self. That's the startup kit. Okay. Finding individuals who are really mimicking the life that you want to live in the smallest step. Like, hell, I mean, if you're driving a 2002 car and someone's driving a 2007 and you were like, oh, I'd rather have that 2007, start asking that person, how'd you get the 2007? Right. We don't have to make these $1 million marches every time. It's increments, it's small steps. But I think that before you start making any steps, we got to get back to the basic foundation. You have to find a solid, rooted, grounded identity and value because networking, marketing, and branding without that, it's messy. There you have it.
Before you go, I just want to know, what was one game-changing gem in your journey that changed the trajectory of your life?
Jesus Christ. I think one game changing, the biggest thing that happened to me in my whole experience was when I found my voice. Meaning, I LLC'd my business and I was like hiding other people's stuff. I was like, if we partner, if we collaborate,
Yeah.
maybe I can show you my skills. Maybe I can prove to you that I'm worth it. Maybe you can make me.
Right.
Right? And I did that. I did that with so many companies before I even was like, I have one. Right? And then I got into an experience where it was like I was in a pressure cooker and God himself said, take that lid off, girl. It was like, take the lid off. So I'm inside this van. We're driving home from Vegas. So we did a company trip and we were in a 15 passenger van with like 18 people, a real pressure cooker. And the lid popped. Like I went absolutely asinine, all the words.
You went off?
The pop came off. It was poppy in there, okay? But what happened after that was I had a poppin' epiphany. And the epiphany was, I am going hard. I am in the paint.
Yes.
I makeup soldier, boy, tell them. Like, I am just going for it. And I'm putting everything that I got into these individuals who do not value what I have. And it's so clear that it's sick. I got sick of being underneath.
Yeah.
And so I really, at that moment, I made the decision, like, I am no longer betting on anybody. I am not putting my energy, effort, time, skill, purpose into anything other than my own creation. I'm no longer being a servant.
Yeah.
I am going to only serve one God, and I'm going to be his servant. And anything that he tells me to do from this point on, that is the path that I am going with the least resistance. So that was the moment where all of that preliminary testing your frustration, going through the motions with the thing, that is the moment when it became a reality of, you cannot be contained because the container is killing you. And you need to come out here and be the mess, not be messy. Be the mess.
Disruptor.
Disrupt the way that people are viewing networking and socializing in this frame.
Yeah.
Because we need to pop the frame off. Right? And so here we are, where I am just out here popping frames and causing problems.
That was bomb. High five. Oh. Wow. Okay, so how can our gamers connect with you?
So I am on Instagram. I'm having such a good time in that little city. I am on Clubhouse. I do have a time in that city too. Like, I just have a time wherever I am. But you can definitely find me on Instagram more than any time, like all the time. I'm always on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You could just find me. Just type in my love. One thing I want to say is that for a long time, I hated my name.
Really?
Yes. This is just my personal thing. And I just didn't like it because it was so complicated. It was always trying to explain it. We had to have like real life lessons on how to say it. And then like this happened just recently. So I'll be 42 next year. And literally, I think on my 39th birthday, I come to this epiphany like, holy crap, my mom gave me such a blessing.
Yeah.
Because nobody has my name.
Yeah.
And now it's like, just type my name.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Type my name and you will find this face. It's so easy. For all these years, it was so complicated. And then it was just like the heavens opened up. It's like, girl, I gave you a name.
Okay.
I gave you a whole name, and it's not any other name. It is the name that I gave you. Yeah. Embrace it. Yes. It had purpose because I need the people to find you with ease, my daughter. Yes. Amen. With ease. I don't need them to confuse you with all the others because you are an original. There's no copies.
Yep.
So originally, my name, Tollisha. That's the name. So if you want to get back to my origin, just type in my name.
Tollisha Joseph, you cannot miss
You can't miss it.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we made this happen, okay? There were some trials
and tribulations, but you know what? I'm going to say something about these trials and tribulations because that's what my episodes were. Small Talk was all about the trials, or it was trials and triumphs of business. I believe that when things get a little shaky, and I'm not going to say messy because it's not a mess until you make one.
Right.
I'm going to say when the earth starts to shake and move a little bit, that is exactly the moment when you know you are on the right path.
Amen.
Because I knew coming to this table that it was going to be a whole situation because of the situation.
Yeah.
And something was trying to stop us from having that conversation. But determination played key. And as long as you are determined to serve in your purpose, it will always work out. Yes. So it was better today than it could have been there because we have experienced some more life. So we brought more life to the table.
Amen. What a blessing. Oh my gosh. Hey, thank you guys for sticking in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We dropped so many gems, like the clip's about to go crazy.
I can't wait. Can't wait for them clips.
Before we head out, of course, special thanks to our sponsors here at Boss Nation Network. Hey, we got another live episode coming up. What day is it on? January 27th on relationships. Y'all make sure y'all here. I will be in the building, and all the bosses will be in the building. So make sure you make it real, make it plain, and I will see you next week.